The massive crystal dome of the Galactic Council chamber glowed with soft blue light. 75 representatives from across the galaxy sat in tiered seats, their forms as varied as the stars themselves. Some had tentacles, others wings, and a few were merely clouds of intelligent gas. Council leader Carthalon, tall and gray-skinned with 4 arms, pointed to the hologram floating in the center of the room. A blue and green planet spun slowly. Item 17 on our agenda. Earth. Our surveys show abundant resources, particularly water and rare minerals. The dominant species has achieved basic spaceflight, but remains confined to their solar system. The representative from Crenthia, a reptilian being with scales that shifted color with his mood, leaned forward. Are they suitable for labor? The species is physically unimpressive but adaptable, replied Xarthalan. However, they seem remarkably aggressive for their development stage. A small bird-like alien named Velanor raised her wing. I studied their transmissions. These humans show unusual resilience and creativity when threatened. Our psychological profile is incomplete. Your concerns are noted, said Xarthalan without interest. But the assessment team classifies Earth as a standard Class 4 acquisition target. Resistance expected but futile. The Council voted quickly. Only Velanor and 2 others voted against invasion. Very well, announced Xarthalan. Admiral Zorn of the Crenthian fleet will lead the acquisition. Meeting adjourned. As the aliens filed out, Velanor approached the Council leader. We're making a mistake. These humans... The decision is made, interrupted Xarthalan. 72 civilizations agree. What could possibly go wrong? Dr. Alan Parker rubbed his tired eyes. The observatory's main computer screen showed the same strange energy readings he'd been tracking for 6 days. Something large was moving at the edge of the solar system, but it didn't match any known celestial patterns. Still chasing ghosts, Alan. Dr. Carol White set down a coffee mug beside him. As the observatory director, she had approved his research time, but her patience was wearing thin. These aren't equipment malfunctions, Alan insisted. Look at the pattern. It's changing course, splitting into smaller formations. Asteroids don't do that. Carol sighed. The department review is next week. We need publishable results, not wild theories. Alan nodded but didn't look away from his screen. After Carol left, he sent the data to his personal email. Someone needed to look at this, even if his boss wouldn't. Major Steve Barnes walked through the Pentagon's long hallways, a folder marked Classified tucked under his arm. He knocked on General Mitchell's door. Come in, Barnes. Tell me you have answers. Steve spread satellite images across the desk. Sir, the electronic disruptions aren't random. They follow a pattern moving inward from Neptune's orbit. The Chinese, Russians, and Europeans report the same issues. General Mitchell frowned. You're saying it's coordinated. A new weapon system. No nation has claimed responsibility, and the technology doesn't match known capabilities. And there's this. Steve pointed to a blurry image. NASA captured this near Jupiter yesterday. The general squinted at the photo showing several dark shapes against Jupiter's clouds. Could be imaging artifacts. NASA ruled that out. Whatever these are, they're moving toward Earth at speeds we can't match. The general's phone rang. His face grew pale as he listened. It's happening everywhere, he said after hanging up. Every military satellite just went dark. Get to the crisis center. Now. In his apartment, Alan Parker was packing an overnight bag when his phone chimed. The email was from NASA headquarters with the subject, Urgent, Rory P.O.R.T. I.M.M.E.D.O.A.T.E.I. His doorbell rang before he could read it. 2 men in dark suits stood outside. Dr. Alan Parker. I'm Agent Lewis, Homeland Security. Your observatory data has been flagged as priority national security information. Please come with us. Alan nodded. They're coming, aren't they? The things I detected. The agent's grim expression was answer enough. In the car, Alan watched the night sky through the window. For a moment, he thought he saw a flash of light much brighter than any star. The radio suddenly cut out, replaced by a strange, rhythmic sound. Then a voice spoke in perfect English. "People of Earth, we are the representatives of the Galactic Council. Your planet has been designated for acquisition. Resistance is inadvisable but expected. We will begin landing operations in 12 hours. Your cooperation will be rewarded. Your resistance will be punished." The message repeated in language after language as the car sped toward a future no one had prepared for. The Corinthian ships appeared in the sky like dark stars at noon. 12 massive vessels positioned themselves over major cities: New York, Beijing, Moscow, London, Tokyo, and others. Smaller craft swarmed around them like insects. People poured into streets, some running in panic, others standing frozen, faces turned upward. Cell phones captured videos that stopped transmitting when the global networks crashed. At the United Nations, an emergency session convened. Representatives from nations that had been enemies for generations sat side by side, fear erasing old hatreds. "They have demanded our surrender," said the Secretary General, her voice steady despite the circumstances. "They call themselves the Corinthian Fleet, acting on behalf of something called the Galactic Council." The Russian representative spoke up. "Our military attempted to engage the ship over Moscow. The missiles, they simply disappeared before impact." Similar reports came from China, the United States, and others. Conventional weapons had proven useless. Dr. Alan Parker found himself in an underground facility he didn't know existed. The elevator had descended for nearly 2 minutes before stopping. A woman in an Air Force uniform approached. "Dr. Parker, I'm Colonel Nancy Wright. Thank you for joining us." "Not like I had a choice," Alan said, looking around at the busy command center. Screens showed the alien ships from various angles. "This is our primary response facility," Colonel Wright explained. "We've gathered the best minds we could find on short notice." She led him to a section where several people worked at computer stations. "This is Major Steve Barnes, military intelligence, and this is Lisa Martinez, our top linguist." Lisa, a woman with quick dark eyes and a tablet filled with strange symbols, nodded briefly. "The aliens are broadcasting in 147 different Earth languages. Perfect grammar, no accent. They either have remarkable translation technology or have been studying us for some time." "What do they want?" Alan asked. "Resources, primarily," Major Barnes answered. "But they've made it clear that they expect us to work for them too." Colonel Wright pointed to a screen showing a clock counting down. "They've given us 24 hours to surrender. After that, they start what they call planetary disciplinary measures." In New York City, John Murray watched from his apartment window as smaller alien craft descended toward Central Park. A construction worker with little interest in politics or science fiction, he now found himself witness to history. When his building shook from nearby explosions, John grabbed his shotgun, a relic from hunting trips with his father, and headed downstairs. The streets were chaos. People ran as strange beings in metallic suits marched forward. They stood 7 feet tall, with elongated limbs and helmets that concealed their faces. They fired weapons that made no sound but left humans collapsed on the ground. From behind an overturned car, John watched as the aliens rounded up survivors. Something inside him snapped. He raised his shotgun and fired. To his surprise, the alien staggered backward. Its suit ruptured, leaking a greenish fluid. The other aliens turned toward the sound, their weapons raised. John ran, ducking into an alley as energy blasts scorched the brick behind him. His hand shook as he reloaded. One thing was clear: these invaders could be hurt. Back at the facility, alarms blared. Lisa Martinez looked up from her station. "We're getting reports of ground forces in New York, London, and Beijing." A new video feed appeared on the main screen. Shaky footage showed aliens rounding up humans. "They're starting early," Colonel Wright said grimly, "before their own deadline." Another video appeared, this one showing an alien falling after being hit by what looked like conventional weapons. Major Barnes leaned forward. "Are you seeing this? Regular weapons can harm them if you hit them right." Lisa's computer chimed. "I'm intercepting their communications. They're surprised. They're calling for reinforcements. Something about unexpected resistance." Dr. Alan Parker studied the fallen alien on the screen. "They underestimated us," he said quietly. "That might be the only advantage we have." The facility shook as something massive struck the ground above them. Dust fell from the ceiling. "They found us," Colonel Wright said, drawing her sidearm. "Dr. Parker, we need solutions fast. Major Barnes, get our people ready to move. Ms. Martinez, keep translating their communications." As they scattered to their tasks, Admiral Zorn's voice boomed from every speaker and device. "Your resistance is noted and will be met with appropriate response. You have 12 hours remaining to surrender. Further defiance will result in escalation." The backup facility was smaller but deeper underground. Colonel Wright's team had escaped just before the main base collapsed. Now they regrouped, joined by military leaders from around the world through the few secure channels still working. "The Chinese report successful hits on 3 alien ground units in Beijing," said Major Barnes, updating the group. "The Russians have captured alien weapons that they're trying to reverse engineer." Dr. Alan Parker had been studying the alien communication signals for hours. He looked up from his computer with red-rimmed eyes. "I found something. Their transmissions follow a pattern. Every 90 seconds, all ships connect to the main vessel in a network update." "Can we use that?" asked Colonel Wright. Alan nodded. "If we broadcast the right interference during that moment, we might disrupt their communications, maybe even their weapons." Lisa Martinez joined them, tablet in hand. "I've translated more of their messages. The aliens call themselves Corinthians. They're shocked that their forces are meeting resistance. They expected us to surrender immediately." "We need to coordinate globally," Colonel Wright said. "Every military, every nation, hitting them at exactly the same time." A new voice spoke up. "I might be able to help with that." A man in civilian clothes stepped forward. "Kevin Johnson, electrical engineer. I was working on a global network of weather stations before all this. If we repurposed them, we could create a synchronized signal across the planet." Major Barnes looked skeptical. "Weather stations against alien technology. Sometimes the simplest solutions work best," Kevin replied. "The stations are designed to withstand extreme conditions. Many are still operational." Colonel Wright made a quick decision. "Do it. Parker, work with Johnson on the signal. Martinez, keep translating. We need to know what they're saying to each other. Barnes, coordinate with whatever military forces are still functioning." Everyone moved to their tasks with renewed purpose. High above Earth, Admiral Zorn faced a wall of screens showing battles across the planet. The reports were concerning. His ground forces were meeting stronger resistance than expected. "How is this possible?" he demanded of his science officer. "Their weapons are primitive." "They're adapting quickly," the officer replied. "And there are so many of them. They have no central command structure we can target. They fight in small groups, then disappear." Admiral Zorn's scales darkened with anger. This was supposed to be a simple acquisition. Prepare a message to the Council. We may need to use prohibited weapons. In the skies over Colorado, Michelle Rodriguez piloted her F-35 fighter jet with 3 others in formation behind her. They had been running practice drills when the invasion began. Now they were the only air squadron in the region still operational. "Target approaching," she said into her radio. "Remember, aim for the same spot repeatedly." Their shields weaken with multiple hits in one location. The pilots had discovered this weakness by accident during an earlier engagement. Now they put it to use, focusing their missiles on a single point of a smaller alien craft. After the 6th hit, the alien ship's shield failed. The 7th missile struck its hull, sending it spiraling toward the ground. "We got one," shouted a pilot. No time to celebrate, Michelle replied, already banking her jet toward another target. Let's make these aliens regret they ever came to Earth. At the backup facility, Kevin Johnson and Dr. Parker worked frantically to program the weather station network. It's ready, Kevin finally said. When activated, every station will broadcast the interference pattern simultaneously. Major Barnes looked at his watch. The alien deadline expires in 30 minutes. Lisa Martinez burst into the room. They're preparing something big. I intercepted orders from their admiral to prepare planetary disciplinary measures, some kind of demonstration to force our surrender. Colonel Wright didn't hesitate. Launch the disruption now, and contact every fighting force we can reach. Tell them to hit the aliens with everything they've got the moment their systems are disrupted. Kevin pressed a key on his laptop. Signal broadcasting in 3, 2, 1. Across the planet, the weather stations emitted a powerful signal timed to intersect with the aliens' communication network. For a moment, nothing seemed to happen. Then reports began flooding in. Alien ships hovering motionless. Weapons systems offline. Ground forces in disarray. It worked. Ellen exclaimed. But it won't last long. They'll adapt. Colonel Wright grabbed a radio. All forces, this is Eagle Base. Attack now. Repeat, attack now. Around the world, military and civilian fighters who had been waiting for this moment launched their counterattack against the suddenly vulnerable invaders. In his command ship, Admiral Zorn watched in disbelief as his systems failed and Earth's defenders rose up in a coordinated assault that should have been impossible for such a primitive species. Admiral Zorn slammed his fist against the command console. The humans had damaged 17 ships and destroyed 3. Unthinkable losses for what should have been a routine acquisition. The Council has responded. His second-in-command reported. They've authorized limited use of bioweapons. Zorn's scales shifted to a deep purple of satisfaction. Deploy them in the major population centers. Let's see how these humans handle something they can't shoot. In New York, people ran screaming as green mist fell from the sky. Similar scenes play out in other cities around the world. Within hours, hospitals were overwhelmed with the sick and dying. At a CDC facility in Atlanta, Dr. Susan Miller worked without rest, studying blood samples from the affected. She had been the country's leading epidemiologist before the invasion. Now she might be Earth's best hope. This isn't like any pathogen I've seen, she told her team. But it's not affecting everyone equally. Her assistant looked up from a microscope. You're right. About 40% of samples show natural resistance. Susan's tired eyes widened. That's our advantage. If we can isolate what protects them, we might create a treatment. In Nevada desert, Colonel Jack Davis led a team of special forces toward a crashed alien ship. They moved silently through the night vision goggles revealing the wreckage ahead. No movement, whispered his second-in-command. Jack signaled the team forward. The ship was smaller than the main vessels, likely a scout or transport. Its hull was cracked open, revealing strange technology within. Secure the site, Jack ordered, and get Parker and Johnson on the radio. They need to see this. At the backup facility, Dr. Alan Parker and Kevin Johnson studied images of the captured ship. Their power system is unlike anything we've seen, Kevin said, but the principles might be similar. This looks like a conduit for energy transfer. Alan pointed to a different section. And this might be their navigation system. If we could understand it, we might predict where they'll strike next. Major Barnes entered the room. We need more than understanding. We need weapons. Their bioweapon has hit 12 major cities. Lisa Martinez followed him in, her face grim. I've translated more communications. Admiral Zorn is sending updates to something called the Galactic Council. He's requesting additional forces and authorization for more powerful weapons. How powerful? Kevin asked. Powerful enough to make Earth uninhabitable, Lisa replied quietly. The room fell silent. Then Major Barnes spoke up. We need to get inside their command ship. "That's suicide," Colonel Wright said from the doorway. "Not necessarily," Barnes replied. "The captured scout ship might give us a way in. Their systems recognize it as friendly. If we could repair it enough to fly." "Even if we could," Alan interrupted, "how would we get past their security once inside?" Lisa held up her tablet. "I've been studying their access codes. I might be able to get us through some of their systems, not all." Colonel Wright considered for a moment. "It's risky, but we're running out of options. Barnes, assemble a team. Parker, Johnson, figure out how to fly that thing. Martinez, get those codes ready." On the Corinthian command ship, Admiral Zorn reviewed the latest reports with growing concern. The humans had proven more resilient than expected. The bioweapon that should have broken their will had only slowed them down. "Sir," a communications officer called, "we're detecting unusual activity around the crashed scout vessel." Zorn waved dismissively. "Humans scavenging for technology. Let them waste their time. It will do them no good." "Should we destroy the wreckage?" the officer asked. "No. Our forces are needed elsewhere. The humans cannot possibly understand our technology quickly enough to matter." Dr. Susan Miller worked through another sleepless night. Her eyes burned with fatigue, but a smile spread across her face as she looked at her test results. "It works," she said to her exhausted team. "The treatment works." She picked up a secure phone to call Colonel Wright. "We have a defense against their bioweapon. It's not a cure, but it will protect our people long enough to fight back." As she hung up, Susan looked out the window at the green mist still falling. The aliens thought they had dealt a killing blow. Instead, they had only made humanity more determined to survive. Major Barnes examined his small team. "This mission is completely voluntary," he told them. "We don't know what we'll find on that ship, or if we'll come back." Every hand stayed raised. No one stepped back. "Then let's go make these aliens regret they ever heard of Earth." The captured alien scout ship rose unsteadily into the night sky. Kevin Johnson sat at what they believed was the control panel, his hands moving carefully over the strange symbols. "I think I'm getting the hang of it," he said. "It responds to patterns more than individual controls." Major Barnes and his team of 4 soldiers checked their weapons. They carried both human guns and modified alien weapons that Kevin and Dr. Parker had managed to activate. Lisa Martinez studied her tablet. "I've loaded all the access codes I could decode. Once we're inside the command ship, I should be able to open some doors, but not all." The scout ship accelerated, climbing higher into the atmosphere. Below them, the lights of cities twinkled, some areas dark from damage or power failures. They were fighting for those lights, for the people below who refused to surrender. On the command ship, a junior officer approached Admiral Zorn. "Sir, we've detected one of our scout vessels approaching." "It's the one that crashed." "Impossible," Zorn snapped. "No human could repair our technology. The identification codes are valid, but there's something strange about its flight pattern." Zorn hesitated. "Allow it to dock, but send a security team to meet it." Michelle Rodriguez led her squadron of fighter jets in a coordinated attack on one of the smaller alien ships. They had learned to time their strikes precisely, hitting the same spot in rapid succession before the shields could regenerate. "Target locked," she called over the radio. "Fire on my mark. Now." 12 missiles struck the alien vessel in exactly the same location. The shield flared and died. The ship listed to one side, trailing smoke. "We've got them," shouted one of her pilots. Michelle was already targeting the next ship. "Keep going. We need to draw their attention away from the command ship." Dr. Susan Miller oversaw the distribution of her treatment in Chicago. The green mist still fell, but fewer people were getting sick. Those already infected were stabilizing. A military officer approached her. "Doctor, we've received reports that the aliens are preparing a new weapon. Something worse than the bioweapon." Susan nodded grimly. "Then we'd better hope Major Barnes succeeds." The scout ship docked with a massive command vessel. As the airlock opened, Barnes and his team tensed. "Remember," he whispered, "quick and quiet as long as possible." They moved through the opening, immediately encountering 3 alien guards. The fight was brief and silent. The aliens fell before they could sound an alarm. Lisa consulted her tablet. The main control center should be this way. They moved through curved corridors, avoiding patrols when possible, dealing with them silently when not. Lisa's codes worked on most doors, though twice they had to find alternate routes. Finally, they reached a massive door that Lisa identified as the entrance to the ship's central computer core. "This is it," she said. "If I can access their database, we can learn everything about them." The door slid open. Inside, banks of strange crystalline structures pulsed with light. Lisa connected her tablet to what appeared to be an access point. "I'm in," she whispered after several tense minutes. "Downloading everything I can." Barnes kept watch at the door. "Hurry. They know something's wrong. I can hear alarms." Lisa's eyes widened as data flowed across her screen. This is incredible. The Galactic Council, their entire history, their plans for Earth. Wait, there's something else. She turned to Barnes. Their power system. It's all connected to a central node on this ship. If we overload it, the whole fleet goes down. Barnes finished. "Can you do it?" Lisa nodded. "But we'll have about 3 minutes to get off this ship before it explodes." "Do it." Admiral Zorn was in the middle of a transmission to the Galactic Council when the alarm sounded. "Security breach in the central computer core," an officer reported. Zorn's scales turned pale. "Seal all doors. No one leaves this ship." On the screen, a council member spoke. "Admiral, your mission is failing. Perhaps we underestimated these humans." "No," Zorn insisted. "They are primitive. This is a minor setback." The ship lurched suddenly. Lights flickered. "Sir," a panicked officer called, "the main power core is overloading. Systems are failing across the fleet." Zorn stared in disbelief as his screen showed ship after ship losing power, weapons, and shields. From her jet, Michelle Rodriguez watched in amazement as the alien ships suddenly went dark. Some began to drift. Others fell from the sky. "What's happening?" one of her pilots asked. "I don't know," she replied. "But keep firing. This might be our only chance." Barnes and his team raced back toward their scout ship, fighting through confused and panicked aliens. 1 minute left. Lisa called, checking her tablet. They reached the scout ship with seconds to spare. Kevin had the engines running before they were all aboard. "Get us out of here," Barnes shouted as he sealed the hatch. The scout ship pulled away from the command vessel just as explosions began to ripple across its surface. 1 month after the destruction of the Corinthian command ship, Earth was still recovering. Cities were rebuilding. People were healing. And the remaining alien ships had retreated to the edge of the solar system, regrouping but not attacking. In a conference room at the United Nations, Lisa Martinez presented her findings to world leaders. The walls were lined with screens showing the alien data she had downloaded. "The Galactic Council consists of 75 species," she explained. "They've been expanding for thousands of years, taking resources from planets they consider less advanced." "And what do they think of us now?" asked the French president. Lisa smiled slightly. "They're confused. No Class 4 civilization has ever defeated an acquisition fleet before." The room filled with murmurs and a few proud smiles. "What happens next?" the Chinese premier asked. "Will they send more ships?" "That's what we need to decide," Colonel Wright said, stepping forward. "The aliens are sending a diplomatic vessel. They want to talk." Admiral Zorn stood before the Galactic Council, his scales a dull gray color of shame. The crystal dome seemed to press down on him as the council members stared in disbelief. "You lost an entire fleet to primitives." XR Thalon's voice was cold. "They are not what we thought," Zorn replied. "They adapted to our weapons, reverse-engineered our technology, and exploited weaknesses we didn't know existed. Villanor, the small bird-like alien who had voted against the invasion, spoke up. I studied their transmissions. I warned this council that humans were unusually resourceful. Tharthillan glared at her. What would you suggest, counselor? Send diplomats, not soldiers, she said simply. Offer them membership in the council. Membership? They're barely space-capable, another council member protested. They weren't, Villanor corrected. But now they have our technology. The question is, what will they do with it? Dr. Alan Parker and Kevin Johnson walked through a massive hangar where scientists and engineers studied the captured alien technology. Parts from the downed ships had been gathered and sorted. Teams worked around the clock to understand how everything functioned. We figured out their power system, Kevin said proudly. It's clean energy, much more efficient than anything we had before. Ellen nodded, looking at a partially assembled craft in the center of the hangar. And the propulsion system. We understand the basics. Not faster than light travel yet, but we're getting there. They stopped before a large screen showing a map of the solar system. Red dots indicated the position of the remaining alien vessels near Neptune. They're just sitting there, Alan observed, watching us, waiting to see what we do next, Kevin agreed. Lisa Martinez prepared for the meeting with the alien diplomats. She studied her notes one last time, making sure she understood the proper protocols and greetings. Major Barnes, now promoted to colonel, entered the room. The alien ship has entered Earth orbit. Are you ready? Lisa took a deep breath. Yes, it's strange. A month ago, they were trying to conquer us. Now I'm going to negotiate with them. Not negotiate, Barnes corrected. Dictate terms. We won this round. The meeting took place on neutral ground, a platform constructed in Earth orbit specifically for this purpose. Lisa led the human delegation, with Colonel Barnes and several world leaders behind her. The alien representatives were surprisingly diverse. A tall gray Corinthian, a smaller green being with 4 arms, and Villanor, the bird-like alien whose warnings had been ignored. We speak for the Galactic Council, the gray alien began. We have come to discuss terms for cessation of hostilities. Lisa stepped forward. We are not interested in mere ceasefire. Earth demands recognition as a sovereign, protected world. Any future interactions will be as equals. The aliens exchanged glances. The Council does not recognize Class 4 civilizations as equals, the gray alien said. Lisa activated a small device in her hand. The screen behind her lit up, showing images of alien ships being reverse-engineered, weapons being tested, and a prototype spacecraft. Perhaps you should reconsider our classification, she said evenly. In 1 month, we've adapted your technology. In 1 year, we will have our own fleet. What will we be then? Villanor moved forward. The Council acknowledges its error. Earth is clearly not what we believed. I propose provisional recognition of your sovereignty, with the possibility of membership when you achieve interstellar capability. The human delegation conferred briefly before Lisa turned back. We accept provisional recognition. As for membership, she paused, meeting the alien's eyes. We'll consider it. As the meeting concluded, Villanor approached Lisa privately. You should know, she said quietly, not everyone on the Council is pleased with this outcome. Some fear what humans might become. They should, Lisa replied. We don't take kindly to being invaded. 1 year after the failed invasion, Earth had changed in ways few could have imagined. Cities bore the scars of battle, but they also showcased new technologies. Vehicles powered by alien energy sources filled the streets. Medical centers used advanced healing techniques, and a sense of global unity remained, born from shared struggle. In the Nevada desert, a massive structure rose from the sand. It housed Earth's first interstellar vessel, built using a combination of human ingenuity and alien technology. Dr. Alan Parker stood beside Kevin Johnson, gazing up at the ship through the hangar's transparent roof. She's beautiful, Alan said with pride. Kevin nodded. and faster than anything the Corinthians had. We improved their designs. Colonel Barnes joined them, now wearing the uniform of the newly formed Earth Defense Force. The Council won't expect that. They think we're just copying their technology. They underestimated us once, Alan said. Let's hope they keep doing it. The launch ceremony brought together leaders and heroes from the invasion. Dr. Susan Miller, whose treatment had saved millions from the alien bioweapon. Michelle Rodriguez, who would command the new ship. Lisa Martinez, now Earth's official ambassador to the Galactic Council. Today, announced the Secretary General, we take our place among the stars. Not as conquerors, but as explorers, not seeking to dominate, but to understand. The crowd applauded as Michelle stepped forward. We named this ship Defiance, she said, to remind us that Earth will never bow to those who seek to take our freedom. More cheers erupted as the crew boarded. The ship rose silently from the hangar, its hull gleaming in the sunlight. It hovered for a moment, then shot upward, disappearing into the blue sky. In the Galactic Council chamber, Velanor addressed her fellow members. The hologram in the center showed the Earth ship traveling at speeds no newly spacefaring race should possess. As you can see, she said, humans have not only mastered our technology, but improved upon it. The Defiance will reach our station within days, not the months we expected. Zarthelon shifted uncomfortably in his seat. This is concerning. Perhaps we should reconsider allowing them access to Council space. It's too late for that, Velanor replied. They already have the coordinates from the data they stole. Besides, 7 other species have already formed trade agreements with Earth. What? Exarthelon's 4 arms gesticulated in alarm. Without Council approval. These are species who were forced into the Council, much as we planned for Earth. They see humans as kindred spirits. The chamber filled with worried murmurs. We must prepare for the human ambassador's arrival, Velanor continued. And I suggest we reconsider our entire approach to expanding the Council. Forced acquisition clearly has unforeseen consequences. On the Defiance, Michelle Rodriguez sat in the captain's chair. Stars streaked past on the view screen as the ship traveled faster than any human had gone before. Status report, she requested. All systems optimal, her first officer responded. We're ahead of schedule. The Council station will be in range tomorrow. Michelle nodded. Good. I want them to see what we can do. Lisa Martinez entered the bridge. Captain, I finished preparing my address to the Council. How does it feel? Michelle asked, returning as an ambassador instead of a prisoner. Satisfying, Lisa admitted with a smile. But this is just the beginning. The Council includes 75 species across thousands of star systems. We have much to learn. And much to offer, Michelle added. They won't look at humans the same way again. In the Council's private chamber, Zarthelon met with several senior members. These humans could become a problem, one said. They advance too quickly. Then perhaps we should slow them down, another suggested. There are ways to limit their expansion without direct confrontation. Velanor entered, catching the last comment. I would advise against any such action, she said firmly. Humans have a saying worth considering. Fool me once, shame on you. Fool me twice, shame on me. They will not be deceived or manipulated easily. What would you suggest then? Zarthelon asked irritably. Genuine partnership, she replied. Learn from our mistake. The humans defeated us when we were at our strongest. Imagine what they might accomplish as allies rather than enemies. As the Council members debated, the Defiance drew closer, carrying with it Earth's message to the galaxy. We are here. We are strong. And we are just getting started. In the vast darkness of space, a new chapter in galactic history had begun. The species that had been dismissed as primitive had proven to be anything but. The Galactic Council's mistake would change the cosmos forever.